The liberal media, CNN, Anderson Cooper here, one of our least favorites, Rachel Maddow, and even Kristen Welker, they all made good points about Trump striking Iran. Now, before we hear from them, let's hear from the Iranian government and their response.
من هدف مشروع ایران هستند. آمریکا با این اقدامی که انجام داد علیه ایران و حریم هوایی ایران را شکست و جنایت علیه ایران انجام داد دیگه جایی در منطقه غرب آسیا نداره. آقای رئیس جمهور آمریکا شما شروع کردید و ما تمومش خواهیم کرد.
And they do that while showing the US bases in the Middle East area on the screen. Can we blame them? Not wanting to just lay down like Trump said, oh, there must be peace now after we bombed you. Do you guys think there's going to be a retaliation? And that retaliation might not just happen at the bases, but might happen through sleeper cells of people who have come across the border like this guy, who may be under the direction of the Iranian government, who knows?
If you are smart enough, you will know who I am. But you are really not smart enough to know who I am. But soon you're going to know who I am.
Now, we don't know if that's true, but now we have to actually think about that as a possibility as Americans. Now let's hear from, I can't believe I'm going to say this, the logical liberal media. Before we do, comment down below, do you think this was an America first move or an Israel first move? It's SeanDaniel here. Let me know down below. Now let's hear from logical Anderson Cooper. What?
There had been a lot of discussion about how many of these bunker buster bombs would be required to really damage Fordo facility. Unclear if just one would be enough. He says bombs. It sounds like there were multiple strikes.
Yeah, and you know, even as he is talking about multiple nuclear sites in Iran, the one to key in on is the Fordo facility, because we know that that is the facility that is buried deep beneath a mountain in Iran that would require those B-2 bombers and would require those 30,000 pound bombs to be dropped over that facility. And most experts have estimated that it would take multiple bombing runs to actually get to the depth required to destroy that facility in Fordo. And it appears that the United States has now carried out that strike. The question, as you said, how many runs did it take? Were they able to destroy it completely? You know, we don't know that yet. We don't have that battle damage assessment that they need to
We should also point out the Natanz facility, according to the IAEA and others, that was damaged by Israeli authorities. That was damaged early on in Israel's actions against Iran. The exact level of damage was not clear. There were some initial reports that perhaps the damage was worse than it actually was. The electrical supply to the centrifuges at the Natanz facility were cut. That electrical supply was cut. I spoke to the head of the IAEA who said he believed that would have caused some of the centrifuges in that Natanz facility to spin out of control and probably go offline and be damaged. But again, it seemed like Fordo had not really been directly hit as far as we know.
That's right. The Israelis had primarily focused their attention on the Natanz facility. We know that they had done extensive damage to the above ground facilities, some damage to the below ground facilities, and then as well some damage to Isfahan as well, although they left a lot of that untouched. Some of that, according to experts who I've spoken to, may stem from the risk of radiation that could stem from, you know, if you hit that facility very hard. The Fordo facility, they didn't seem to really strike that, the Israelis themselves, and that reflected the fact that they knew that in order to actually get to that facility, you would need those GBU-57s, which are those enormous 30,000-pound bunker-busting bombs.
Which, by the way, have never actually been used in combat, and certainly not in a situation like this.
That's right. I mean, the United States has used a lesser bomb known as the mother of all bombs, which is in Afghanistan. That bomb is actually not the mother of all bombs if you consider the GBU-57, because it is smaller than this 30,000-pound bunker-busting bomb, which would, every expert has said, would be the bomb that you would use for the Fordo facility. At this stage, we don't know that they have actually used that. We don't have confirmation from the military, but presumably that would indeed be the weapon of choice for this facility.
The thing about those bombs is that they can penetrate deep through concrete, deep through fortifications. The question is, would you need to hit with multiple of those bombs in the exact same spot to really get to the depths that we're talking about? I mean, there's estimates of of how deep the Fordo facility goes, and I've seen a variety of them, but it's extensive. I mean, it is very deep in this mountain.
Without a doubt. And you not only have the mountainous structure, the natural fortification that is provided in this facility, but there's also been some analysis that there is likely some reinforced concrete as well. So you have the mountain itself, but then you may also have reinforced fortifications for this facility itself. And that's why most experts have said it would likely take multiple runs of these GBU-57s, known as these 30,000-pound bunker-busting bombs, to be dropped over this facility. I do think that it is interesting that we are also talking about U.S. strikes, according to the president, on these two other nuclear facilities as well. And that, all the attention has been focused on this Fordo facility, which is where the United States was needed in order to destroy that facility. But the fact that President Trump authorized strikes on these two other nuclear facilities as well indicates that he really wanted to make sure that this job was done. And this is an attempt by the United States, by President Trump, to truly eliminate the entire Iranian nuclear program. And that just cannot be understated.
Particularly the site at Isfahan. My understanding is that there were large reservoirs of nuclear fuel there, and that during the initial attack a week ago, that site had not been struck, and there had been some thought that perhaps that was intentional to kind of give options to the Iranians.
That's right.
Kind of a window to have a diplomatic effort.
I mean, we haven't even talked yet about the enormous head fake here from President Trump. I mean, in just the last few days, President Trump talked about giving the Iranians 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks for diplomacy to run its course.
He always said within 2 weeks. But
within 2 weeks.
The headline was 2 weeks.
But that was the headline. And the impression that he was giving was that there was time. He was giving the impression that there was time to negotiate a deal with Iran. And now he has decided to take military action. And the question is, when he talked about nearly 2 weeks, was he indeed trying to give the Iranians that impression in order to be able to carry out these strikes without the Iranians knowing that it was coming?
What do you make of this breaking news?
It is extraordinary. I think Trump has managed to do something that he, to be fair to him, had always marked out, which was he did not want Iran to have a nuclear program. But what's clear is in the last few weeks, he shifted ground on two issues. The first was he had started out in a position which was Iran can have some enrichment, just has to be monitored, things like that. He moved to what was essentially the Israeli position, which was zero enrichment. And he outlined that in the middle of about 2 weeks ago. The second is that he seemed to have lost faith that the Iranians were negotiating in earnest. And he seems to have gotten frustrated, because I think this was not his first option. His first option was a deal with the Iranians, but the maximalist condition he placed was with zero enrichment was one the Iranians didn't seem willing to go to, and I think he thought the Iranians were not negotiating earnestly. So the result is you have this extraordinary move, which almost certainly has destroyed almost all of Iran's enrichment. The question, however, is you still need diplomacy. You still need a political solution, because the Iranians can rebuild. Remember, this is a nation that has been pursuing nuclear energy for 70 years. The programs were first started under the Shah of Iran. They can rebuild. It will take them years. It will be difficult. So the best way to make sure that Iran stays non-nuclear would be now to have some kind of agreement. And President Trump seems to understand that, because the only part of that Truth Social post that's in all caps is, "Now is the time for peace." So he clearly still wants to make a deal. The Iranians don't have a lot of options, but that doesn't mean they will be ready or willing to very quickly make a deal. This is a very stubborn, nationalistic, prideful group of people, very ideological. So the key issue is now, how do they view this devastating setback? Do they say, look, let's accept finally the Israeli Trump condition, zero enrichment, or is this going to get their backs up?
What do you think Iran's going to do? Let me know in the comments. Do you think that they're going to fire back, or they're just going to lay down and be like, yes, Daddy Trump, you can bomb us and we're going to do nothing? Or do you think they're going to activate some sleeper cells in the U.S. because Biden's border was open for so many years? What do you guys think they're going to do? I think they're going to push back like crazy. They hate America. They just got bombed and humiliated, and Trump is trying to slap them, bomb them, and tell them to lie down after their enemy Israel told them to lie down. I can't believe at this crisis moment we have CNN being objective and logical and not emotionally trying to spin anything. They're recognizing the seriousness of it. It's a shock to see.
I'm Rachel Maddow. If you're just tuning in, we are following the breaking news that U.S. bombers carried out strikes today at 3 Iranian nuclear sites. One at Natanz, a site that had previously been hit by Israel. Israel and Iran have been trading strikes since Israel's surprise attack last Friday. Israel has already attacked the site at Natanz. Now the United States has done so as well. Another nuclear site near Isfahan in Iran. And also, according to the president, the facility called Fordo, which is a deeply buried facility. And that's important tactically because the U.S. military is believed to have essentially unique targeting capacity to hit a site like that. It is a deep underground facility. The United States has essentially developed weapons specifically to target facilities like that one. And so these B-2 bombers that have reportedly carried out these strikes tonight in Iran are aircraft with capacity that no other military in the world really has. Now, common wisdom about this president, about the political movement that he leads, is that he is supposedly isolationist, that he is supposedly anti-war. That has never been exactly right. That's always been kind of a lazy common wisdom. In less than 6 months back in office, he has threatened military action against Panama, against Canada, against Denmark in order to seize Greenland. He has bombed Yemen over and over and over again, and now he appears to have entered the United States military into a war in Iran, something that neoconservatives have thrilled to for, I guess, 2 generations now. A lot of commentary around the Trump phenomenon and Trump's politics would suggest that he has risen in opposition to the neoconservatives who have advocated for this type of war since essentially the Iranian Revolution in 1979. But since 1979, the U.S. military has not engaged directly with Iran. But Donald Trump has done so tonight. Donald Trump has ordered U.S. military bombing raids on Iran. We are now in war with Iran. Joining us now from Washington, D.C. is NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba. Monica, thanks very much for being with us. I know this is crunch time. What can you tell us about this decision tonight and what we know about the potential scope of this military engagement?
Yeah, Rachel, good to be with you. Look, this is an incredibly consequential decision of a massive scale for any president, but of course, in particular, out covertly that it didn't appear that anything leaked and that they were able to do this and keep U.S. military and U.S. personnel who were involved as safe as possible throughout the evening for now. Rachel.
Now comes something I can't believe I'm going to say, but a very, very good question from Rachel Maddow. I can't believe I just said that.
This is both a communications, White House communications question and also sort of a strategic question, which is that I know that I'm sure that the White House has seen the American public polling on this and knows that this is an unpopular move. The president has been so opaque, almost teasing in his remarks to reporters about how nobody knows what I'm going to do. The White House hasn't made an effort to try to publicly sell to the American people the necessity of a strike like this. They've done the strike now, and we don't know, again, if this will just be a one-off or this is the start of a longer engagement. Once you've bombed another country, you don't necessarily get a say as to how much war you end up with them in. Is there a sense at the White House that there is going to be, they now plan to try to do more communication to the American people as to why this is necessary, why this is our war? The Secretary of State, for example, Marco Rubio, has argued essentially the opposite to the American people in very recent days.
Yeah, just as recently as about a week ago, when this conflict really began in earnest and all of the fire was being exchanged between Iran and Israel, that was the top line from many White House officials and senior aides, saying that this was something where the U.S. was assisting Israel in its defense as missiles and drones were coming in from Iran, but that it wouldn't go beyond that and that this was Israel's conflict to manage. So you're right to note that there was a shift in that pretty dramatically, and the president began to say that he was very concerned about Iran's ability to build and have a nuclear weapon, even contradicting several times his own director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. In fact, just yesterday, flat out, he said she's wrong, referring to her testimony in March about her doubts that Iran was as close as the president believes Iran was to having a nuclear weapon. And days before, he had said, I just don't think that she's right about that. And he dismissed her entirely. And then again yesterday, he said, I don't even care what my entire intelligence community says. I believe that they were just very close to having that ability. So we are also seeing that split in the last couple of days that the president himself has talked about uniquely, but that the intel community is at odds with, which is really, really significant here. I think that Vice President J.D. Vance and a couple of other people who have been key to the president in this decision making did start to lay the groundwork a couple of days ago for this rationale of potentially dropping bombs in Iran, saying that this is a president who will respond with great force if he feels there's any risk to American assets or personnel. And we know that that was a little bit of a factor in this, that the president completely was arguing in a lot of his meetings with national security advisors that he was worried that there could be exposure to or retaliation to U.S. military personnel or U.S. interests abroad and also at home. And that was something that drove a little bit of this decision as well. But I think that you're going to now see also this major split in MAGA world play out in real time, with a lot of people in his base who were arguing quite publicly against this kind of military intervention from the U.S., and then some who were trying to back him up and say that this is a president who should be trusted for making these decisions, and trying to argue that he, if he did it, would be in the right authority to do so. But I think he keeps saying that his supporters will love him no matter what. But I think this is a real question for the base and those millions of supporters who do have differing views on this, Rachel.
If you're just as shocked as me with this whole development and you're not just immediately right away to go, oh yes, Trump, great job, and you want to see more honest videos like these, consider subscribing. What do you guys think? Do you think bombing Iran was a good idea or a bad idea? Let me know in the comments. I will be responding to you guys, and you can go at it with each other. I cannot believe how logical, deeply thought through the liberal media is being right now with this serious thing. And it'll be interesting to see if the whole conservative media is just up there clapping for Trumpy Trump with this move, or are people going to be critical of it? Because I cannot believe we did this. Trump is no war, Trump is Mr. Peace guy, and I cannot believe we just jumped and did what Israel said they wanted us to do. I can't believe it.
I want to bring back Meet the Press moderator, Kristen Welker. Kristen, you're now going to be speaking to the vice president tomorrow?
Jose, that's right. We do have an interview with Vice President J.D. Vance on Meet the Press tomorrow morning, and there are a number of questions clearly at the forefront in the wake of this monumental announcement and action by President Trump. What comes next? Of course, the world is bracing as Iran has warned for a counterattack. What will that look like? And then what will the United States response be to that? And then the big question for the administration, as it relates to what we're hearing here in Washington, what's the reaction to lawmakers who are saying that President Trump needed congressional approval in order to take this step? You just heard my colleague Peter Alexander reading that tweet from Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We have seen a number of other tweets that echo that throughout the night. Representative Tom Massey, a Republican of Kentucky, saying this is not constitutional. Daniel, the ranking member on the House Intelligence Committee, Jim Himes, saying, according to the Constitution, we are both sworn to defend. My attention to this matter comes before bombs fall, full stop. That is the sort of debate that will be unfolding on Capitol Hill. The counterpoint to that you are hearing from other Republicans and some Democrats is that this was a targeted strike. They will argue that Iran was too close to being able to develop a nuclear weapon, and therefore that justified this action. But then the question becomes, what is the specific intelligence that backs that up? Remember, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, testified before Congress in March that Iran was not moving toward developing a nuclear weapon. So did that intelligence change? Will the administration share those findings with Congress and with the American public? That looms very large over this. And again, you heard President Trump say that he is hoping that what will come next is Iran coming back to the negotiating table. But what will happen if we don't see that occur? Could this further ensnare the United States in a foreign war? Remember, President Trump ran on an America First foreign policy. This has really divided his base, which says this is counter to that. So we'll be watching for that debate as well, Jose.
Do you think this was an America First move or an Israel First move? Comment it down below. If you guys enjoyed the video, consider liking or subscribing for more. It's Sean Daniel here. I cannot believe this is what we just did. Just without knowing all the details. We don't know all the intel that Trump has. We don't know everything going on behind the scenes. We don't have the information he has. But we do have the outside optics of what's going on, don't we? And the outside optics show that Israel basically said the U.S. needs to get involved because if not, Iran's going to bomb New York. In short term, in summed up words. Israel says jump. Iran and Israel start going at it. And then the U.S. jumps when Trump is Mr. No War guy. And now there's the possibility, which there wasn't before, of bases being hit in the Middle East, U.S. bases, of the sleeper cells being possibly activated from the millions of people that came across the country illegally without us vetting them. Who knows, maybe from being sent from Iran. Now there's the possibility, us Americans, we got to walk around the store, walk around in public, thinking about maybe there's going to be some retaliation from the illegals that entered in, maybe through Iran. Or when we travel, we have to be more aware. I have traveled the world the last 6 months, and I haven't had to be worried. Now, if I was traveling, I'd have to be thinking about that. I cannot believe we did this, and I am stunned right now. Let me know what you guys think down below. And I will see you in the next video, hopefully with some better information. But I'm shocked to say I'm impressed with how the liberal media, yes, even CNN, even Rachel Maddow, analyzed this move. Wow.